Welcome to the Latina Professional session on executive public speaking. My name is Sammy Walker Herrera, and I'm really excited for you to join today. Whether you're joining live here or you're watching this recording, I'm excited to see what your thoughts are and how you can connect together as a community. So definitely feel free to connect with me here on LinkedIn or other social media as well. Drop a question or even say hello. And so as you're saying hello, let us know where you're joining from, what industry you're in, and what you're looking to learn today. Where you're joining from, that can be, for example, for me, I'm based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have folks who've joined us throughout these weeks from different parts of the world, even Pittsburgh themselves. I'd love to connect. The industry you're in and what you're looking to learn today, because these fun facts are more than just fun facts, but they're points of reference for similarity for folks. People that you can meet who can be part of your network, who can be supportive for you, who may be your future clients or future collaborators as well. So if you haven't started already, definitely introduce yourself in the comments. And if you've been here more than once, let us know, because we'd love to continue hosting these Latina professional sessions. In addition, if you're joining us today, you will be joining us today for Building Resilience, Bouncing Back from Speaking Setbacks. I've hosted many sessions throughout the last few weeks on building speaking structure, effective body language, being able to navigate stress while speaking, and really attend to some of the mindsets that hold us back. So this session, I really wanted to focus on the idea of how do you build resilience? How do you adapt to change? How do you adapt to challenges while you're speaking? A lot of previous sessions have focused on getting ready or thinking about speaking. And this one's about you're already starting to address any fear of public speaking. You're already out there speaking at conferences, speaking up at work, speaking in volunteer capacities, or even pro bono speaking, for example. And you notice that, hey, there's been a couple of challenges or issues I've had, whether it's my own speaking or even technology that have caused setbacks. And so today we'll be really focusing on what are these setbacks, what do they look like, and how do you address them, especially in the moment. I'm seeing a lot of folks coming in from Boston, Houston, Atlanta, New York, Dallas, sunny San Diego, New York City. So hello, everyone. I see a lot of friendly faces coming back, like Victoria, Humaira, Danielle. And so if you've been to a session I've hosted before, let me know in the chat. I always love seeing who's coming back and what sessions really draw them, because I want to make sure each session that I'm hosting is something that is relevant and of interest to you. Let's just get the banner here. If you haven't yet, again, make sure that you are introducing yourselves, that you're commenting on each other's comments here, that you're supporting each other, and that you're all connecting. And that includes connecting with me as well. So getting started, before we get started with the topic, I do want to introduce myself really quickly. And my name is Sammy, and I'm a confidence and public speaking coach. So I work with executive leaders one-on-one to really build their capacity to address the fear of public speaking and be able to make mistakes and recognize how they can bounce back and learn from those mistakes. I do that through dedicated speaking practice, expert feedback, and accountability practices that make it a lot easier to hit one's goals in a short amount of time. I know for a lot of people, there's a lot of fear generally for speaking at work, but sometimes it only really comes up when speaking to a superior or having an interview. And so I like to address any of those times when people feel like they have a lot of pressure and that it's really high stakes to speak. And there's no dumb questions and there's no dumb issue when it comes to figuring out how you want to be a better speaker and really pronounce your image and your exposure within your company or even within your job search as well. Now, you got a little sneak peek to the next question, but I really want to focus on y'all's engagement. I really want to know your answer to this question. And I want you to tell me, what's the worst thing that can happen when you're speaking in public? It may be something that's happened in the past. It may be something that you just fear in general, but I'd love to hear, whether it's stories or just quick words, what's the worst thing that can happen? And I'll share some of your comments as well here on the screen. That's awesome. I'll shout out Crystal here. Hey, I'm Crystal. I'm excited to learn more and pass this knowledge on to my team as well. That's fantastic. I love hearing that folks come to these sessions and they not only personally benefit, but they're able to share with their teams as well. And these are things that I've done for different teams as well. All right, so I'm seeing different answers to this question. So I see Odelia saying stuttering. I see forgetting everything and freezing, and that happened to me last week. So I'm definitely feeling for you. I know that can be a very stressful experience. Let's see, going blank is something that Rosa is saying. Chantel saying too many times, so different filler words can come up. And often if we're afraid of some of those filler words, we're afraid of sounding like we don't know what we're talking about, afraid of not sounding like an expert, afraid of sounding like we're not as senior as we are in our organization. I hear that. And I see other folks talking about stuttering impacting interviews, blanking out, not being able to say what we want to say. And I know one thing I haven't yet seen, but I know is something that a couple of sessions ago I heard folks talking about fear of, was technology issues. Hey, I know what I'm saying. I've practiced it multiple times. I feel confident, but I'm afraid of being interrupted by my technology or by other people. So definitely, if you haven't yet included your own experience or things that you've seen out in the world of work when it comes to what's the worst thing that can happen when speaking, definitely let us know in the comments, because one thing that I notice when we come together as a network and we come together as a community is that our own experiences, we share them with others. It normalizes the fact that we're not all perfect public speakers. And that's something from my own experience as well. So I want to share some of the worst things that have happened to me too. I was in graduate school a few years ago, and I was giving a presentation with two of my friends. And I was the person who was going second. So we had Jill going, then me, and then Jen. Jill gave her part of the presentation, and I had my portion. And I didn't have any specific notes. I didn't have any specific bullet points, but we did have slides with visuals. And I will tell you that I completely blanked out. But the odd thing was I was still talking. I don't know exactly how it is. It might have been a dissociative experience in that moment for just about 2 minutes, but I was continuing to talk, but I had no idea what I was saying. And I remember finishing talking. I remember my friend Jen finishing talking, and I remember sitting down. And I remember putting my hands on the cold table, wondering what just happened. I turned to my left. I looked at Jill and said, "Did my presentation make sense?" She's like, "Yeah, it sounded like what we rehearsed." So that's something I would say is probably the worst thing that happened to me when speaking, was not being sure whatsoever if what I was saying was related. And that might be something you've experienced, or that might be something that you fear. But I've definitely had tech issues. I've definitely had blanking issues. I've had tech issues right here in the Latina Professionals platform. I've had issues with audio not connecting, with my slides not coming in, with the internet cutting out and then having to come back in. So these are all things that are normal, but often we can beat ourselves up about. So let's talk about how we can build more of that resilience too. Now, starting with technology issues. We'll start with tech, and then we'll move more into some of the more mindsets, stuttering, blanking, and things like y'all talked about. So when it comes to technology issues, the best medicine here is prevention. We want to make sure as much as possible that we have things set so that if things are preventable, we know we've done our best with that. And that also helps build resilience in the sense of, hey, if something new comes up, I did what I really could, and now I know something moving for the future. So for example, updating your computer. If you're giving a big presentation at your organization and you haven't updated your laptop in 6 months, you might have a required restart sometime during your presentation. Definitely let me know in the comments if something like that's happened to you before. I also know, even looking at my own screen, that Google Chrome is asking me to update my browser. So if you have a big presentation coming up and you haven't updated your browser, that's something that can be really helpful as well. Charging your materials, so charging your laptop, charging your earbuds, charging any clicker, for example, especially if you're using that to move slides. whether in person or even virtually, can be really helpful as well. And Zoom, as well as WebEx, Teams, all of these different platforms for us to speak virtually, all have opportunities to test out the audio and test out the video. Because there might be an issue where you're having issues with tech right at the start and you feel like, oh my gosh, like I feel like that really hurt my momentum. Like I didn't have a strong start because I had to deal with some of these tech issues. Let me know if that's something that's happened to you before too. If you felt like the start of a presentation of yours, the start of a Q&A really was hampered by the technology you were using. I highly recommend, in combination with practicing your speaking, practicing your points, practicing your start, practicing your close, that you're also doing some type of tech rehearsal. Because I know there's a lot of people who use, let's say, Zoom very regularly in their work, but now they're giving a presentation on Microsoft Teams, and that's a completely different platform, or WebEx, or Skype, or some other system as well. So when you're doing a tech rehearsal, what you want to do is drop the assumptions. Drop the assumptions that things are going to function in the way that you anticipate, trying things out, especially if you use a feature like a poll feature or a question feature, or you're using something to gather audience engagement or comments. It's always good to do some of those tech rehearsals as well to make sure that you know, hey, I have my bases covered. I feel a lot more confident. And again, if something still happens with the technology, your Wi-Fi goes out, the power goes out in general, you still possibly are learning from these experiences, or you're thinking of backups that can be really helpful. So if you have other tech tips that you want to share with the folks who are here in this community, definitely let us know, because I will tell you, even though I'm the one on the screen right now speaking, I am not the 100% expert. I'm highlighting what I know, and perhaps not every single thing I know, because this is a short amount of time that I can share my expertise, but we have a lot of other experts in the room here. And so I'd love for y'all to share your voices, and I can even share some of your comments here on the screen if there's any tools or strategies you've used to address any tech issues in your speaking. Now with that, lo and behold, most of y'all talked about the speaking setback of in the moment something happens. In the moment you're stuttering, in the moment you blank out, in the moment you feel like so nervous and you feel like maybe you're shaking, or your face is getting red, or you're sweating a lot. I know in the past for me, my face would go completely blank like this because I was so scared. I didn't want anyone to know what my emotions were like. And there were times I blinked like this a lot because I just felt like it somehow helped, and I wasn't even aware of that experience as well. So when we're in the moment, what can be really helpful to address some of those nerves, address some of the pressure, and manage some of what's happening, especially again, if we're blanking out, we're not exactly sure what's happening next, is taking a breath. A few sessions ago, I talked about the concept of box breathing, and that can be really helpful as well. That's when you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold it again for 4 seconds. You may be thinking, okay, I blinked out, I felt really nervous. Won't it be awkward if I just take a pause for a second to breathe? The thing is, if you do that, it helps regulate your nervous system. It helps you feel like you're taking back control of the situation. And it gives you what you need the most in that moment, which is time. Time for a quick reset. And that box breathing, 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. It's a lot shorter than you think it might be. But often when we're speaking and we're nervous about speaking, any bit of silence may seem like forever. But I want you to think of it less as, oh my gosh, that was so awkward, and more if this is a gift I'm giving myself to be grounded. This is a gift I'm giving myself to reset. And honestly, it's a gift you're giving to everyone in the audience because you have something important to say. And that's why you're speaking up. And it allows you to get grounded so that you can continue imparting that message to the folks who are there excited to hear from you. Additionally, there are times when you can have some light humor. There have been times where on this platform for Latina professionals, I've stuttered. I take a bit of a pause. I might make a little bit of a joke about that, or a joke about the topic in general, to make the situation feel light. Because there's nothing, or there's no one who said that you have to be completely boring and completely straight-laced to be professional. I personally hope that you still feel that this session is professional, even if I am advocating for some humor, or I have a bit more of a cheery, bold, optimistic vocal tonality, or I make mistakes just like I did right now when I stuttered, which happens for me sometimes. Professionalism can look like many things, and there are many organizations that offer a lot more of an open definition for that professionalism. Additionally, if you're your own personal brand, like I can be, it helps to be able to redefine that for yourself as well. Not only wearing bold prints or telling jokes, but recognizing that things don't always have to be heavy and serious for it to still be a professional talk. Now, one thing I do see that I highly recommend folks doing, or not doing, to be more specific, is if you make a mistake, let's say you say one word versus the other. You say ophthalmologist instead of optometrist, something like that. I really suggest you not taking a lot of time to apologize, in the sense of, oh my gosh, I said the wrong thing. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Let me get back to that. If it's a quick gaffe, a quick mistake, ophthalmologist. Oh, optometrist. Okay, now when we talk about optometry, what you want to do is just take a quick beat, be able to switch it, and then keep going. We often don't want to put a megaphone, microscope, any of those, magnifying glass. There we are. See, look, I'm making mistakes live. It's totally fine. We often don't want to put a magnifying glass on the mistakes that we make. It can be really helpful just to continue skipping the beat, because honestly, for the most part, people may not really notice. Most people are not evaluators from Toastmasters who are going to give you feedback right afterward and tell you every time that you made a mistake. That's just usually not going to happen unless you ask someone to give you feedback and notice a lot more of those mistakes. Even Mary here is saying, like, yeah, a spotlight on the mistake. If you spotlight it with light humor, sure, and keep on moving, but that's the thing you want to do, is you want to keep going. Because again, as I said before, you have something important to say. Why focus on a mistake when you could focus so much more on your message? That's what I think can be really important. Lastly, I want to highlight to you that oftentimes the people in the audience, whether they're your colleagues, even your superiors, folks that you're giving a presentation to at an industry conference, is that they often have your back. And the audience often wants to give you some support. Even folks that are interviewing you. Let's say you have a panel of interviewers. They want to hire someone. Why would they want everyone to make mistakes? Why would they want to not hire someone? Even interviewers are looking for the best out of you. They're hoping the best out of you. And if you make a quick mistake, they're there to support you and move forward, because we make mistakes in the world of work too. So that's what I want to say, is a lot of people really give the benefit of the doubt. And especially if they're there really interested in your topic or rooting for you as someone to hire, it adds a lot less of that pressure, and we can take that time for the quick breathing. We can take that time to not put a spotlight on mistakes, and maybe we take a quick glance at our own notes or our own slide deck just to make sure where we are, and that's okay. Beatriz, thank you for pulling out this quote. So why focus so much on the mistake and not on the message? Getting back to the message is so important, not only for you as a speaker, but again, when we speak up, it's not just to hear ourselves talk. It's to make sure that we have that message we share with other folks. Resilience is all about being able to overcome the unexpected. Sustainability is about survival. The goal of resilience is to thrive. I pulled this quote because I find for a lot of folks who are going on their speaking journey is they don't quite realize it's a journey that they're getting started on, that they're on this road. And when we're on a journey, if you think about like a winding road going up a mountain, there may be potholes, especially if you live in Pittsburgh. There might be boulders you need to walk around. There might be hazards that you're facing. The idea is we can't always expect everything that's going to happen. We can't expect, oh my gosh, I knew the Wi-Fi was going to cut out at noon. I knew I was going to stutter on the word magnifying glass. No, I didn't know these things. And trust me, I did not plan these things. But recognizing how can we minimize the space of the unexpected without beating ourselves up for that unexpected to happen. Because what I want for every single person here who feels like I am on a journey to build my confidence, to build my speaking skills, to build my career and move more forward in leadership and promotion is to recognize that the goal of resilience is to thrive. And that means to continue moving on that path and to continue moving on that journey and growing. And so resilience isn't always just like, oh, I'm just going to sweat it off. It's being okay with the frustration, having a community of support and recognizing I'm going to continue because my message is more important than the mistake. I hope that's helpful for you as you think back, maybe to past experiences, because I find what happens for some folks is, oh my gosh, I can't do this because of this that happened last week or this that happened a few months ago, or when I was in the 6th grade going for class president, it didn't work out for me. And the thing is, there's validity in those fears. The fears can be valid, but we want to build the resilience and courage to continue moving forward. So we don't have to hide behind our notes. We don't have to hide behind our colleagues that we perceive to be better speakers. We can start taking on the spotlight as well. I want to talk about bouncing back stronger. I want to talk about the idea of a mistake has happened. There has been an issue, whether it's technology, whether it's blanking out, whether it's freezing, stressing out, sweating a lot, these types of things, is we want to foster a stronger, more positive growth mindset. Because this is not something that just amplifies your speaking. This amplifies your entire life. So when we think about bouncing back stronger, one thing I find that is crucial to do after speaking, and again, that might be raising your hand and speaking in a meeting, because that's public speaking. It might be an interview, whether it's one-on-one or with a panel of folks. It might be a conference presentation or going on LinkedIn Live, just like I am right now. Is after every time you speak, it is crucial for you to highlight at least one thing that went well. And perhaps maybe not about the technology. One thing that went well that you did. So let me know in the chat. Think back to the last time you spoke in public. And that could have been pretty much like right before this talk. Could have been last week, since this is Monday. A lot of y'all are coming into the work environment. Is let me know what was one thing that you did well the last time you spoke in public. Now, if you're like, oh, I'm really blanking on this one, you can think about it in a vocal. So the sense of my voice and my delivery sounded a certain way. It can be verbal. It can be the content and the words you said, or it can be visual, which is a lot like this. I felt like I didn't shake. I recognized I was looking at the camera very well. I gave everyone eye contact speaking in public. So let me know. And don't feel like it's over bragging. Don't feel like, oh, maybe we all want to hear, we all want to celebrate, we all want to click like or heart or all of those things here on LinkedIn. I want to know what's one thing that went really well in your last public speaking. And so I see Natalie, I did a great job of selling our overall message. That's fantastic. You really focused on the message. Coralia, I did a great job at smiling throughout. And trust me, in beginning my public speaking journey, that's something I did horribly. So that's a fantastic win. Someone here on LinkedIn, actively listening, which is an underrated public speaking skill, is being able to listen very well. Because if you're asked a question, it makes it so much easier to foster that conversation. Let's see, Judith, I connected the audience related to their story and helped them by sharing my personal story. So it sounds like your strength there was your authenticity and your audience engagement, which is fantastic. We see Vince, their audience engagement as well. More audience engagement, which is so fantastic as well. Okay, Megan, I displayed my excitement and passion for strategy. I connected to the team. Rosa, I was less nervous and didn't panic when someone asked a question. And then Imelda here, my voice projected very well. So if you're noticing things here that folks are commenting that you didn't realize were public speaking strengths, take some notes, because these are things that you can absolutely give yourself a pat on the back for each time that you're speaking in public. Perhaps when you're reflecting on your speaking, maybe you think of 3, 5 things that you did well. What we want to do is give ourselves more of the feedback about what went well so it continues. And when we're giving ourselves feedback about what maybe didn't go well, I want you to pick one thing and one thing only and frame it as one thing you want to improve. Not 10 things I did bad. That sounds like a BuzzFeed article. No, we want to focus on one thing you feel like you can improve and start building out more of that list of all the things that you felt like you did well. And if you haven't been supporting everyone's comments here down here on LinkedIn, definitely do so, because again, community isn't just a group of people coming together for 30 minutes to hear me talk. A community is people who see each other's stories, see each other's wins, celebrate them, and then connect afterward to make sure that they're continuing to build the relationship. And again, if you've not yet connected with me here on LinkedIn because you didn't realize you could, or you're a little scared, and that's okay, definitely do so. I definitely don't bite. And I definitely want to be sure that I can be a supporter to you through my content and through other webinars such as this. So bouncing back stronger is reflecting on your experience and making sure that you think of something that went well. And if you're able to build your public speaking skill and even your confidence skill, it could be helpful for you to record some of your speaking opportunities, especially if you're speaking at a conference. You can easily have someone record that, or set up your phone or set up your camera. If it's some type of virtual presentation, you might be able to. And that can be really helpful so you can go back and get used to listening to your own voice. I find a public speaking practice doesn't usually work very well if we hate our voices the entire time. But I find when we are able to listen to our voices more and more, we start to like it, and we start to get excited to hear ourselves talk as well. Judith, I love it. I gave everyone a high five, and that was amazing. So I love that. I think that's fantastic. Bouncing back stronger is something that's going to help us continue speaking. We can start our public speaking journey, but we can also end it pretty quickly. And what we want to do is continue walking the path. We want to continue gaining feedback. We want to continue thinking about what went well. We want to continue finding opportunities to speak up more and continue iterating and learning from that experience. And what does that take? That takes some confidence, that takes some courage, and it takes some getting used to. And I hope that's something that, if I can be supportive for you on your journey as a coach, that we can talk about that sometime in the future as well. So I want to leave some time here for Q&A. You may have asked questions earlier on in this session. And what I like to do after this session, especially if you've been here multiple times, is I'll definitely type up some responses. But if you wrote in a question earlier that I haven't addressed yet, pop it in the comments now so I can answer live for a couple of minutes, and we can focus on those as well. Excellent. Gonna see some questions up here soon. I love that y'all are really focusing on what your strengths are. Again, if you see strengths here in the chat that you didn't recognize in yourself, I highly recommend doing so as well. I also want to leave some space for y'all to be able to ask me any questions or let me know what topics you'd like me to speak on in the future. Are there any topics you feel like, hey, that would be good to know, and I hope Sammy can speak to it, because I'd love to do that for future presentations or workshops, is really focus on the things that you're hoping to learn. I think Vince said it very well. Having the confidence to know you belong on the stage and are the best professional to tell your story. That's amazing, because part of the reason that makes us the best to be able to tell a story is our perspective. And even if we have a similar background to every single other person at the workplace or in the conference or wherever you're speaking, our perspective is what makes us unique and allows us to really shine specifically. And building up a speaking practice and honing in on what you want to grow in is totally admirable. And that coachability and trainability is something that really helps people differentiate themselves from others in the workplace. So yes, let me know if there's other topics that are coming up to you. You think, oh my gosh, I need Sammy to speak on this. Okay. I see a topic here, how to efficiently answer objections during live and virtual meetings. Yes, that's something I would love to be able to talk about more in the future. Oh, let's see. Building resilience on an everyday basis with daily duties and tasks. Yeah, that's something that can be really helpful, is generally building that resilience and confidence throughout work. So that's something I can definitely think about as well. But yes, thank you so much, everyone who's attended. Really quickly, if you're ever interested in working with me, you feel like you struggle to sound confident, to feel confident, to speak confidently, project yourself in a way that you know you're the expert in the room, definitely reach out to me. And if you haven't attended other Latina professional sessions, I highly recommend them. I have other sessions I've hosted as well. And you can be able to connect with Latina professionals weekly. You can also connect with me at speakyall.com or sammy@speakyall.com via email. I'd love to continue connecting with y'all. If you have more questions, continue putting them in the comments and I'll reach out to you on LinkedIn as well. Have a fantastic day, fantastic start to your week, and hope to connect.